Joining us now, criminal defense attorneys Donte Mills and Misty Marris. Both have been following this case closely. Good to see you both here in studio. Appreciate it. All right, so here's my view of the closing argument, all right? I think on substance, he's got a lot to work with here. The inconsistencies in the account, in particular, the fact that he's changing his stories over time. I think he went too long. I think he may have started to bore the jurors, and I don't think that that's helpful. Let me get your thoughts, Misty, starting with you. What did you think of the closing argument on substance?
Look, on substance, motive, and opportunity, and let me focus on opportunity because that's really the crux of this case. And how did Creighton Waters do that? He used Murdaugh's own testimony. He said, this guy's a liar. I don't need to tell you that. He told you that. But let's pretend that you believe his version of the facts. Let's adopt that. Well, by doing so, Murdaugh himself is putting himself at or near the crime scene at the time of the murder. By his own story, he's on that golf cart on his way to the house at 8:48. 8:49 is the time these phones lock forever. So I truly think that Creighton Waters was able to get that across to the jury and show that this guy, he's there at the time, he has the opportunity, he has the motive. I found it to be effective because he used Murdaugh's words in order to establish that.
Donte?
Listen, being thorough is a skill set, and he's very thorough, but painstakingly so. I think he was boring. And I think he went too much into facts that the jury did not need to hear over and over again because they heard it over and over again at the trial. I think he wasted his opportunity to captivate them and highlight specific points because when you go that long and when you go into too much detail, it loses them. And now they have to guess what's important and what's not. And I think he wasted that opportunity.
I'm somewhere in between, the two of you on that. Let me play another piece of sound from the closing argument because this, to me, is the single most important point, is why is it only at the trial that he ends up admitting that he was literally at the scene where his wife and his son are killed minutes before he had previously said he wasn't there? This is number 10, a critical moment in the closing argument.
Because law enforcement didn't have this kennel video. They didn't have this kennel video until April of 2022, when Paul's phone was finally unlocked. And that changed everything. Why did it change everything? Opportunity. Being at the scene of the crime when the murders occurred. Opportunity. And more importantly, exposing the defendant's lies about the most important thing he could have told law enforcement. When was the last time I saw my wife and child alive?
Donte, it's powerful stuff, no?
It is. That's the best thing they have, is that video that places him at the scene, because other than that, it's all circumstantial. You have no evidence tying Alec to the scene when the crime happened. However, if I play devil's advocate and you listen to Alec, he was concerned because he was already a part of an investigation. He knew SLED, he had some relationships there that he questioned.
Law enforcement.
Yeah, the law enforcement. Yeah. And he was concerned that they would assume that he did it if he told them he was there shortly before. So that's his excuse for trying to cover that up. And as he said, once he started that lie, he had to continue with it.
You know, I'm not buying it, Dan, because that component was debunked by the prosecutors at the end of Alex Murdaugh's cross-examination and then referenced again in the close, meaning that he had said there were several reasons why he was not truthful about being down at the kennels. He said related to his opioid addiction, which created paranoia, related to an officer from SLED who he believed to be dishonest, who he had known in the past, and that they had taken a gunshot residue test from his palm. However, when we go back, the prosecutor was able to show that those two things had not happened yet, his interaction with Officer Owen from SLED and the gunshot residue test. So he lied before these things happen to enhance his paranoia.
And I think one of the things that was effective that he did today is sort of asking about what is the moment he decided to start lying, right? Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your cable provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.